Have you ever wondered what it would be like to stare into the eyes of someone who no longer seemed human? To hear their voice twist and shatter into something unearthly? To witness a family so convinced of the devil's grip that they would risk everything to set their daughter free? This isn't a movie. It isn't fiction. This is the true story of Anneliese Michel. And the exorcism that still terrifies the world to this day. Anneliese was born in 1952 in a small Bavarian town in West Germany. From the outside, she was like any other girl. She was shy, polite, deeply religious, and close to her family. She went to church regularly, prayed every night, and dreamed of becoming a teacher. But life had other plans. At the age of 16, Anneliese suddenly collapsed one day at school. Her body stiffened, her arms and legs locked, and she fell into violent convulsions. Doctors examined her and diagnosed her with epilepsy. They prescribed medication, and for a while, it seemed under control. But something else was happening, something that no doctor could explain. Late at night, when the house was quiet, Anneliese began hearing strange sounds. At first it was faint, like footsteps pacing her bedroom floor, even though she was alone. Then came whispers. Deep, guttural voices calling her damned. She told her parents she felt an invisible weight pressing down on her chest when she prayed, like unseen hands trying to choke her. She said her skin burned whenever she touched a crucifix. The doctors brushed it off as symptoms of epilepsy and depression. But to Anneliese, it felt real. Terrifyingly real. Over the next few years, her suffering grew worse. She started seeing demonic faces in the walls and windows. In the middle of the night, she would scream for hours, begging the voices to stop. Her parents tried to comfort her, but neighbors began to notice the change. They said the once sweet girl now snarled like an animal. She destroyed religious objects, tearing crucifixes off walls and smashing rosaries into pieces. Sometimes, she crawled under the table, barking like a dog. On other nights, she licked her own urine off the floor. The family felt helpless. Doctors kept changing her medication, prescribing stronger drugs. But nothing worked. If anything, she only got worse. Her seizures continued, but so did the voices, the visions, and the violent outbursts. The line between illness and possession grew thinner by the day. By 1975, her parents were convinced this wasn't medical anymore. They believed their daughter was in the grip of something demonic. Something no pill could cure. They begged the Catholic Church for help. At first, the church refused. Possession cases were rare, and priests were told to be skeptical. But eventually, after much pleading, the church granted permission for an exorcism. 2 priests were chosen, Father Ernst Alt and Father Arnold Renz. The first ritual began in September 1975. The priests sprinkled holy water, held crucifixes, and prayed in Latin. What happened next shook them to their core. Anneliese's voice, usually soft and fragile, shifted into something guttural, harsh, and unrecognizable. Her face twisted in rage, and she screamed, not as one person, but as many. She claimed to be possessed by several demons, including Lucifer himself. The priests recorded many of the sessions, and on the tapes, you can hear her voice switching mid-sentence, from a young woman pleading for help to a monstrous growl declaring, "We are many. We are legion. She belongs to us." The exorcisms continued for months. There were 67 sessions in total, some lasting up to 4 hours. During these sessions, her body contorted in unnatural ways. She threw herself to the floor and jumped to her knees hundreds of times in one night, until her legs bled. Her eyes glared with hatred at religious images. She cursed at her family, spat at the priests, and screamed obscenities no one believed she even knew. The suffering didn't end when the priests left. During the days, Anneliese refused to eat. She insisted the demons would not let her swallow food. Her weight dropped dangerously low. Her once bright and hopeful face became gaunt, her eyes sunken, her cheeks hollow. Yet her family, convinced this was part of the spiritual battle, allowed it to continue. They believed she had to endure, that if she kept fighting, she would finally be free. By June of 1976, Anneliese could barely move. Her body was frail, weighing only 68 pounds. But the exorcisms didn't stop. On June 30th, she whispered her final words to her mother, "Mother, I am afraid." The next morning, July 1st, she was found dead in her bed. Just 23 years old, the autopsy revealed she had died from starvation and dehydration. The news spread quickly. How could a young woman in modern Germany waste away under the watch of her parents and priests? The state charged her family and the priests with negligent homicide. The trial was one of the most sensational in German history. The defense argued this wasn't neglect, it was faith. They claimed she willingly sacrificed herself, fighting against forces none of us could understand. The prosecution, however, said she was simply sick, and that her family and the priests had abandoned medicine in favor of superstition. The priests were found guilty, but only received suspended prison sentences. Her parents were spared jail as well. The church, embarrassed by the scandal, distanced itself. Officially, the Vatican never recognized her possession. But in her hometown, many treated Anneliese as a martyr. Her grave became a place of pilgrimage. People still leave flowers, candles, and prayers. Decades later, the debate continues. Was Anneliese Michel the tragic victim of untreated epilepsy and psychosis? Or was she truly possessed by forces too dark to comprehend? Skeptics say her mind was broken by illness and religious obsession. Believers insist no illness could explain the growls, the unnatural voices, the strength she displayed in her frail state. And then there are the tapes. The recordings from those 67 exorcisms. In them, her voice doesn't just change, it splits. One moment she begs her family to help her, the next, a chorus of inhuman tones erupts, cursing God, mocking the priests, claiming ownership of her soul. People who've heard them say it's the most terrifying sound they've ever encountered. Not because it's dramatic, but because it feels too real. Too raw. When you look at the photographs of Anneliese in her final months, you see eyes that no longer shine, a body broken by suffering, and a face that seems far older than 23. Some say you can see the possession in those pictures. Others say you can see only a young woman failed by the very people meant to protect her. But the question lingers. What if it was real? What if she really was a battlefield between heaven and hell? If that's true, then maybe her death wasn't the end. Maybe the voices that tormented her never left, because even now, in the dead of night, if you press play on those old tapes, you can still hear her. Screaming. Growling. Whispering in tones no human should possess. The voice cuts through decades of static to hiss the same chilling words it once did inside that candlelit room in 1976, "She belongs to us."